We've all seen manipulation, maybe even tried a bit ourselves, but today we're diving into something, well, deeper. Seduction.
Right. And we're not just talking romance here.
No, not at all. It's framed as this ultimate long game, almost like an art of war for delicate times, if that makes sense.
It does. The whole point is making someone sort of slowly lose their ability to resist you.
And crucially, without them really knowing why it's happening, it bypasses the conscious mind.
Exactly. That's the fascinating part for this deep dive. We want to pull out those core psychological levers,
Understand the tactics, the character types, how they actually work on the unconscious.
Stirring up those often hidden or repressed desires.
And the whole thing rests on a pretty bold idea, doesn't it? This belief that deep down, people want to be seduced. They yearn to be led astray.
Yeah, that's fundamental. They crave that excitement, that feeling of being swept away. It's this fluid thing that operates, like the source says, beyond good and evil.
If that underlying desire wasn't there, none of these tactics would really find purchase, would they?
Not a chance. You're essentially guiding their own fantasies. But before you can guide, you need to know what pushes people away. So maybe we should start there with the anti-seducer.
Okay, the anti-seducer, the universal turnoff, we've all encountered them. What's the core flaw? What do they all share?
It really boils down to intense insecurity, but it's often masked by this complete self-absorption.
So they can't see past themselves.
Pretty much. They can't grasp the psychology of someone else because they're trapped in their own needs, their own anxieties.
They're the ones who pester, maybe talk way too much about themselves, try too hard.
Exactly, imposing themselves. There's just this profound lack of self-awareness.
Well, one example that really jumped out was the tightwad. It seems almost minor, being cheap. Why is that considered so anti-seductive?
Well, think about what seduction promises. It promises abundance, pleasure, letting go.
Okay.
Cheapness signals the exact opposite. It suggests something really constricted in their character. They can't let go of money, maybe not of time, maybe not of emotion.
So it's a symbol, a sign of not being able to be generous or free.
Precisely. That tightness, that holding back, it's the antithesis of the lavish, imaginative world seduction is supposed to open up. You can't promise freedom if you're fundamentally stingy.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. They signal they're not willing or maybe not able to invest.
Yeah.
Okay, so avoid that. The next big step then is choosing your target. Phase 1. Separation, they call it.
Yes, and this is critical. You can't just seduce anyone. The source is clear. The completely contented person is almost impossible to seduce.
Because there's no in, no void to fill.
Exactly. Success hinges on finding someone who feels like something is missing. Maybe they're isolated or unhappy, or they just feel their life lacks a certain exotic quality.
And you position yourself as the one who can provide that missing piece.
You got it. You're looking for that psychological wound or maybe just a subtle dissatisfaction. The target needs to feel, even unconsciously, that you offer something specific they need to feel complete.
So it's not just about being attractive, it's about being the solution.
That's the core of it. That need creates the dynamic, the pull. You're not just selling yourself, you're selling the answer to their unspoken longing.
Okay. So we know who not to be, and we know how to spot an opportunity. Now the real work begins, shaping who we appear to be. Let's get into these character archetypes. The dandy is first. What's the appeal there?
The dandy is all about ambiguity. Think about it. Most people fit into neat boxes, right? Doctor, teacher, parent.
Sure, predictable roles.
The dandy refuses that. They create their own persona. They play with masculinity and femininity, maybe through fashion, creating this striking image that says, I'm not easily categorized.
But couldn't that just seem confusing or maybe flaky? How is ambiguity alluring?
Because it hints at freedom, total self-creation. Their goal isn't just looking good. It's about crafting originality, but maybe still within the general bounds of society. They stand out.
They follow rules, but break them stylishly.
Kinda, yeah. They're saying, I play by my own rules and I look fantastic doing it.
Like the George Sand example.
Yeah.
A woman adopting men's clothes back then.
But with specific, unique touches. The tall hat, the riding boots worn casually. It was recognizable, but startling.
Different enough to be magnetic. Okay, I see. What about the next one? The star.
Ah, the star. This taps right into our collective desire for fantasy, for escape from the mundane.
We all want that, don't we?
Definitely. Daily life can be grinding. The star offers an escape route by being Well, distant, vague, ethereal almost.
Glittering, but you can't quite grasp them.
Exactly. And that distance is key. It allows the target to project onto them, to imagine more than is there, as the source puts it. It works directly on the unconscious fantasy life.
Marilyn Monroe is the classic case study here, isn't she?
Absolutely quintessential. Apparently, early on, people told her she wasn't really pretty enough for movies. Can you believe it?
Wow. So what did she do?
She engineered her persona. That famous walk, totally calculated, created when she was just 23. It was this performance, this blend of seeming innocence and raw sex appeal.
So it wasn't natural, it was crafted.
Completely crafted, a controlled illusion that just captivated the public imagination. The effortlessness was the result of immense effort.
Brilliant. Okay, on to the charmer. The word itself, charm, coming from Carmen, a song or incantation, suggests magic. What's the secret?
The charmer's magic targets vanity, specifically the target's ego and self-esteem.
So it's less about direct attraction and more about making them feel good about themselves.
Precisely. You keep them fascinated, hooked on the feeling you give them, but crucially, without raising suspicion. It has to be subtle, a light touch, like a warm glow rather than a spotlight.
Benjamin Disraeli and Queen Victoria comes to mind. That's a masterclass.
Oh, absolutely. He understood her insecurities, her suppressed confidence, her maybe even suppressed sexuality after Albert.
And he didn't flatter her crudely. Someone said that when women spoke to him, they left thinking they were the cleverest people in England.
That's the genius of it. By making her feel uniquely brilliant as a monarch and desirable as a woman, he made himself indispensable. He wasn't just a politician, he was the source of her validation and pleasure. That's incredibly powerful, far more than a simple romantic approach.
Okay, so we've built the alluring persona. Now the tactics get more psychological. Direct persuasion, as we know, often fails. People tune it out. So we need insinuation.
Right. Directness can feel aggressive or needy. Insinuation is subtle. You plant a hint, maybe about an emotional lack they feel or a potential pleasure they're missing, but you disguise it within some ordinary remark.
So it slides past their defenses.
Exactly. Because the hint is buried, its source gets forgotten. The idea then seems to bubble up spontaneously in the target's own mind. They feel like they thought of it.
The sources call this diabolic language. Words that evoke feelings, create illusions, rather than stating facts, like political rhetoric sometimes.
That's a good analogy, evoking hope or fear without concrete claims. The historical example given is the Count Saint-Germain. Fascinating character.
The supposed immortal.
Right. He never explicitly claimed to have the Philosopher's Stone or the elixir of life. But in conversation, he dropped these sophisticated, vague hints about them.
So people just associated him with this immense power.
Yes, through suggestion and ambiguity alone, pure insinuation.
Okay, another key tactic seems almost counterintuitive. Strategic weakness and vulnerability. Why show weakness?
Well, if you seem too calculating, too smooth, people get suspicious, don't they?
True. You seem like a player.
So the seducer needs to cover their tracks, appearing weak or vulnerable, or maybe completely overwhelmed by the target's charms. It makes your actions seem less planned, more natural.
It shifts the focus. Makes it seem like they're the powerful one in the dynamic.
Precisely. But hang on, wouldn't appearing weak just make you seem undesirable? Less confident?
But the key is that the weakness has to appear caused by the target. Their beauty, their virtue, their power is so overwhelming it makes you stumble.
Okay, I see. It's flattering, not pathetic.
Exactly. And physical signs help, maybe tears, blushing, seeming flustered. These elicit pity or concern.
And pity is dangerously close to love.
Very easily channeled. Look at the fictional Valmont and Dangerous Liaisons. His whole strategy with the Président de Tourvel.
Right. He paints himself as the victim of her goodness and beauty, constantly confessing how weak she makes him, how he can't control himself around her.
He uses the traditional feminine script of being overcome by emotion to completely disarm her suspicion of him as this calculating predator.
It's a masterful reversal,
Yeah.
turning his calculation into her perceived power over him. Very hard to see through in the moment.
Okay, and maintaining tension. This requires controlling your presence. Which brings us to the coquette. Why is being consistently available so detrimental?
Constant presence just screams neediness, and neediness is, well, the absolute opposite of seductive. It kills desire.
So the coquette masters withdrawal.
Yes, selective withdrawal.
Yeah.
They offer warmth, then hint at coldness. It keeps the victim completely off balance, anxious.
And that anxiety fuels the chase.
Absolutely. Once the target's vanity gets involved, wait, does she still like me? Am I not attractive enough anymore? They start pursuing the coquette actively, just to prove they are still desirable. That insecurity becomes the engine.
The Napoleon and Josephine example is perfect here. Her constantly putting him off.
Making endless excuses, being unavailable, it drove him mad. He pursued her with the same focus he used for battles. The scarcity of her presence made it incredibly valuable.
So it's not just the initial tease, it's the ongoing push-pull.
Yeah.
That keeps desire linked to insecurity.
That's the essence of the coquette strategy, enslaving desire through uncertainty.
All right, we're moving towards the end game now.
Yeah.
How do you shift from the mental and emotional games to the physical, using physical lures?
This stage is delicate. You need to quiet the target's conscious mind, stop them overthinking, and instead awaken their senses.
How do you do that?
It's about projecting contrasting signals simultaneously. First, maintain a cool, nonchalant air. This lowers their guard, makes them feel safe.
Okay, lowers inhibitions.
But at the same time, you need a charged physical presence. Your voice, your gaze, your posture. It should subtly communicate desire. Oozing sex and desire, as the text graphically puts it. You raise their internal temperature.
So you infect them with this heat, this desire, but, and this seems crucial, you don't force the physical step.
Never. You lure them. You make them want to close the distance.
But what if they do want it, but they're just stuck? Too awkward, too hesitant.
That's where the bold move comes in. If the desire is clearly there, but paralysis has set in, you need a sudden, decisive action.
Why sudden?
To eliminate the awkwardness, the doubt. If you hesitate too long at that critical moment, the target might start thinking, wait, maybe I'm not that desirable after all. Why isn't anything happening?
And that doubt kills the mood instantly.
Instantly. Seduction at this final stage isn't democratic. One person has to take charge, sweep the other person off their feet.
Eliminate the chance for second thoughts.
Exactly. And paradoxically, the target often finds immense pleasure in that surrender because the boldness of your move confirms their own power. Their charms were supposedly so overwhelming that they broke your restraint.
Wow. This has really been a fascinating, if slightly unsettling, deep dive into influence and desire. We've covered a lot, from spotting that initial psychological void,
to crafting a persona using ambiguity, emotional tactics,
all the way to securing that final outcome.
And if we pull back for a second, think about the philosophy behind it all. Plato's Symposium has that interesting explanation of desire's origins. Diotima tells Socrates about Eros itself.
Right, who were Eros' parents again?
Two opposites, contrivance or cunning, basically, strategy and poverty or need. Lack.
So love, Eros, is literally born from a clever strategy meeting a fundamental need.
Precisely, which perfectly mirrors the seducer's tax, doesn't it? You have to act like Eros. You aim for the target's poverty, their soft spot, their insecurity, their need, and you use contrivance, your strategy, your persona to address it.
You're essentially creating, or maybe just highlighting, a wound or a lack.
That only involvement with you can apparently heal or satisfy. You have to find or even subtly create those doubts and needs that are already dormant.
Which leaves us, and you the listener, with a pretty provocative final thought, I think. In your own efforts, whether it's connection, persuasion, influence, are you just trying to fill a void you see in someone else?
Or are you perhaps strategically creating a new kind of need, a new void that only you are uniquely positioned to fill? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.